Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
NFL Cutdown Day always brings with it drama. We go around the league to a couple of the more dramatic storylines. Also, the Browns may have them all beat, and Jim Harbaugh will lead the Chargers to the playoffs this year.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
NFL Cutdown Day has plenty of surprises every year. One of the more unfortunate surprises is that the San Francisco 49ers will not see Elijah Mitchell all year.
And that is Elijah Mitchell has been placed on IR, and he has not been given the designation to return. So Elijah Mitchell's season is over for the San Francisco 49ers. That's it for Elijah Mitchell this year. Kalia Davis was also placed on injured reserve with the designation to return. So we may see Kalia Davis again, and it looks like we will not see Elijah Mitchell all year, gone to IR. But on the good side of things, Talanoa Hufanga, who we thought might start the season on the physically unable to perform list, he's actually been activated. So he's an active participant, which means the 49ers don't expect him to miss, up to 4 weeks like he would have to with the PUP list designation. He's going to be back sooner than that, maybe even out there starting in week 1, guys. So let's start with Mitchell and Croc. We had talked about how much we like Jordan Mason. Looks like he could be a running back too. I think he's got to clean some things up in pass pro. But I thought a healthy Mitchell would still be ahead of him on the depth chart. He's not here anymore.
Mitchell, not only not healthy, this has been the storyline for him really throughout his career, or at least after his rookie year. Just been banged up, missed a lot of time, and it's unfortunate, especially for a back who, I said since his rookie year. He was banged up at times during his rookie year. I think he missed 4 or 5 games and still almost ran for 1,000 yards. So someone that is just so talented, but for whatever reason, the injury bug just continues to bite him.
Bengals head coach Zack Taylor expects Jamar Chase to be on the field for week 1 against the Patriots.
This is the most we've gotten out of Zack when it comes to anything Jamar Chase. So the fact that Jamar Chase, he's confident that Jamar is going to be on the field, it could mean a few things. And they're really all good. Like the first of which, I don't want to see Joe Burrow this year on the field without Jamar ever. I hope they're on the field together every single game the Bengals play. And I know everyone watching, assuming you're a Bengals fan or listening, feels that way. And so there's reason to believe that will happen. And so sign me up for that. 2, maybe this is because the contracts are in place to set the precedent, whether it's the CD Lamb deal, which happened after we recorded our last show, or whether it was obviously the Justin Jefferson deal earlier this offseason, that maybe they can get something done. Even though it doesn't feel like a Joe Burrow scenario, maybe it is internally. And I would love that, where it's a matter of when, not if something gets done. Still feels a little unlikely to me, Jake. But you're telling me number 1's going to be on the field week 1. That's a beautiful thing. And I can't wait to see it.
That is what we will remember. Much more than we'll remember this training camp where Jamar Chase held in, because we still have every belief that the deal will get done. And if the Bengals have fooled us once with Jesse Bates and fooled us twice with T. Higgins and fooled us again on Jamar Chase, well, we'll never trust them to get anything right with one of their star players that isn't a quarterback again. But the feeling remains that the deal, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, will be completed. And there's no real concern about that. And there's no concern that Jamar is going to change his plan.
The Eagles look good on paper, according to our Locked On Eagles host, but there was one surprise player who made the team.
I do like what they have on paper on both sides of the ball. And I'm happy that a lot of the tough decisions, the outcome that we got was what I preferred.
I think we went about 95% in our predictions.
We kind of crushed these predictions for sure.
The only one I believe that we missed on was Dylan McMahon.
McMahon getting waived, which was surprising, Gino, because he was like your most traditional center backup, a draft pick that I thought had a great preseason. They probably want to stash him on the practice squad.
And then James Bradberry making this team. And I think we should just start there because It's been the biggest elephant in the room. What is going to happen with James Bradberry? The good thing about this, though, it doesn't come at the extent of having to lose some of these younger players.
Like Tristan McCullum. He made the roster,
McCullum makes the team. Thomas Booker makes the team. Patrick Johnson. Ben Van Sumeren makes the team. James Bradberry, and you and I briefly touched on this, the best route forward right now, more than likely, is him being on the team, the Eagles paying some of this money over the course of the year, and come week 6, come week 7, or let's say when Sidney Brown comes off of the PUP, James Bradberry is going to get traded to potentially somebody who has an injury at this position. Maybe the Eagles suffer an injury at this position, and he is going to be that guy who's either a depth piece in Philly or a depth piece somewhere else, because come that time when Sidney Brown does come off the PUP, if James Bradberry is going to stay on the roster and then you end up cutting one of those young guys that you were able to keep right now, that would be a shame. But even tomorrow, you might be making a decision on this, because you could potentially add talent at wide receiver and get a depth player there, or tight end, or maybe you like another offensive lineman. Who's going to be the guy you cut tomorrow, Lou? Because it's not James Bradberry. If they were going to do it, they would have already done it today. It's not going to be him. He's in Philadelphia.
Thanks for making Locked On Sports today your first listen. Coming up, the Browns kept how many quarterbacks? Before we get to that, the Rams moved on from Ernest Jones. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. That's why you've heard us talk a lot about them. They're the #1 sports book. Well, we've got a little something different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. For that $5 bet, you could take a look at an NFL future. FanDuel has special future bets right now called Future Fusions. They put together 2 future bets that increase your potential payout. Like the Packers and the Chargers to have a big year. FanDuel has a Future Fusion for both the Packers and Chargers to win more than 8.5 games. Odds on that happening are 3 to 1. I got to do that right now. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. The LA Rams and Ernest Jones couldn't figure it out with a contract, and the linebacker is now headed to Nashville.
Let's talk about this Ernest Jones trade, because it was an absolute steal for Rand Carthon. And let me first break down the conversation. At the end of yesterday's show, my everydayers will remember, we talked about why the Ernest Jones trade made sense for the Titans, but there were some cons to the trade. There were some shaky fit questions. Where is he going to line up with Kenneth Murray, obviously, being a guy with a very similar skill set? But then you look at the trade that happened and what it actually cost the Titans. And of course they're going to make that trade. So the Titans acquire Ernest Jones, linebacker from the Los Angeles Rams, for a pick swap in 2026. The Titans are giving up their 5th round pick, and they're going to get back a 6th round pick and get Ernest Jones. So literally they go from the 5th round in 2026 to the 6th round in 2026, and they get back Ernest Jones, who has been one of the better blitzing linebackers in the NFL since he came into the league 3 years ago. So
on the diamond, the Philadelphia Phillies looked for a win in part 2 of their rematch of the 2022 World Series against the Houston Astros.
You know what, Alec? I don't know that we're choking the division. I'm not going to put that on the Astros just yet. I'm still going to go with my deal where I don't think that the Mariners ultimately in the end have the better of the Astros. We are playing against some tough competition, and yes, Bree, it was a tough game tonight. We are a DFA team. Come on, man, y'all. Hey, I'm here to make sure that you guys don't lose your mind tonight. It is going to be okay. Now, this may be true The umps gave the extra shot by not counting that strike. Look, that happens. But at the end of the day, the Houston Astros should have responded with hits. In the first inning, Jose Altuve led off, got on base, and then they just failed to do something. And
for the first time, institutional investors will be allowed to partially own NFL franchises. NFL owners passed a resolution allowing private equity funds to purchase up to 10% of any franchise for passive ownership. This would mean that minority owners would have no say in the operation of the team. According to a league source, the vote passed 31-1. The lone dissenting vote, the Cincinnati Bengals. Funds are capped at investing in a maximum of 6 teams, and the minimum investment for institutional wealth in any franchise is 3%. They may be the only team in NFL history with 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks sitting on the bench. The Cleveland Browns come into the 2024 season. Nick Chubb is going to start the year on the physically unable to perform list. Deshaun Watson is going to be the quarterback, at least to start the season. But it seems like Cleveland is hedging its bet in a major way. 4 quarterbacks made the final 53, or should we say the first 53. Jeff Lloyd from Locked On Browns joins me now. And Jeff, you and I both know that this is not over by any means. Just because that those final cuts were made does not mean this is what the roster is going to look like. Are we going to go into week 1 with the Browns having 4 quarterbacks on their roster, or is this trade bait city?
I would have to think it is. And even still, look, you're not going to go into this. They have 2 tight ends on the roster right now. They have 2 running backs on the roster. Like watching some of the film from practice today, like you just saw the guys like stop, like, all right, like I did this rep 10 times. Like there's nobody else here to do it. I mean, we're not getting gassed out, coach. It's Tuesday. We got a game in a week and a half. You look at, certainly a team, Peter, like you covered the Green Bay Packers, Arizona Cardinals are another team, the Las Vegas Raiders, all have 2 quarterbacks on the roster. The question is, though, is, the way that, and now this came down that they're changing they basically were giving you the rule, and now almost seems like now they're taking it away. Most NFL teams are probably going to have to roster 3 quarterbacks. I mean, because you could get in a really, really difficult situation here if you don't. I mean, so it seemed weird that the timing of this. So my thought process is you're going to look to move Tyler Huntley. Jameis was brought here for a reason. You don't want to have to go chasing down. God forbid you need a quarterback. You don't want to go looking in November. The odds that you're ever going to hit that scratch off again is not going to happen for Cleveland. It's not really going to happen for anybody twice. We all know that. I thought DTR, it was a really nice summer for DTR last year. They probably had no thought process that he was going to end up playing. Did win a big one at home against Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll still say till the day I lose breath, I think they would have won that Denver Bronco game if he had finished that game. So I think you're really trying to move Tyler Huntley. Even if you end up don't getting really much and it just ends up, some, compensatory, compensations, pick swap, this, that, or the other thing, you're probably going to move on from Tyler Huntley. If they have to eat it and release him, you're going to have to eat it and release him. We know how this works. A lot of teams, we'd like to trade so-and-so. Well, it always takes 2 to tango. But, the Browns need help. Right now, they're probably 1 guy light on the defensive line with the Mike Hall going on the commissioner's exempt list. They certainly could use a 3rd tight end. I don't think 2 is going to cut it. You can even use guys for blocking scenarios. But the Browns had a lot of nice plays last year where 3 tight ends were on the field, and it led to some funky stuff where David Njoku was wide open on a play action, a bootleg, et cetera, et cetera. And 2
How
running
does the
backs
offense have to change, Jeff? Because if Nick Chubb is not going to be there, he can't be the bell cow for your offense. But Deshaun Watson has not looked like Deshaun Watson in 3 full years now. So how do you walk that tightrope on this team that now has the receivers to do it? Like, is this just going to be a spread them out, chuck it all around the yard to start the year kind of experiment?
I'm not necessarily sure it's going to be that much. I'm not saying we're going to talk Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs type of thing, but this is where it was headed anyway. Look, you had a quarterback you spent $236 million on. It was going to become his offense. It wasn't going to be Nick Chubb's offense. Then obviously Nick got hurt week 2. Deshaun had his best moment as a Cleveland Brown, and we found out 2 days later that was it. It was it for the year. But this is also why you brought all these players in here. You brought in Judy, which gives you, maybe, they're hoping possibly a future one down the line, maybe not. But you still have Amari. Elijah Moore caught 55 balls last year. Cedric Tillman has had a really nice summer as wide receiver 3 or 4. Jamari Thrash was voted their best rookie in training camp. David Bell, had a big touchdown against the Jaguars, caught 7 passes in the playoff game. David Njoku finally put all together the potential, athleticism, everything last year, and an incredible year. So, this is going to be a team that's going to throw the ball more. Deshaun's got to get in and out faster. But having these guys who all look like they are able to contribute should help you. I mean, you should, if anything, you shouldn't be looking to hold the ball. You should be looking to get rid of it as fast as possible with the talent that you're playing with. So you think that's going to be the thought process. You're also dealing with offensive line questions. Your top 3 offensive tackles all coming back off of a knee surgery. DeJuan Jones was the first one back. Looks like he'll start week 1 at right tackle. Jed Wills not back yet. Able to practice, but not practicing yet. So I don't know necessarily what that means. Jack Conklin looks like he's going to be your week 1 starter at left tackle. So, plus it's a new offensive line coach. So we have no way to even gauge what this offensive line is really, because we haven't seen any of them even do anything yet together, even take a damn team photo together to this point yet, Peter. So, there are a lot of questions to it. So, maybe also that could help Deshaun. Hey, you don't have the luxury you had in years past. You don't have a strong offensive line where if you say, okay, well, I gave that a split second more than I should have. He might not have that time. He certainly ain't going to have that time week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. So, if you need to pick up your pace, you're going to have no choice. Otherwise, you're going to be down, and you're going to be down a lot. So, Deshaun does not have to go back to be that elite guy that he was in 2020, that crazy season that he put up. But it's got to be better. It's got to be more consistent. And look, I don't need 5,000 yards. I don't need 45 touchdowns. If we're one number we're really looking at for Deshaun Watson, it's completion percentage. You want that 65. You want a little north of that, because you even have receiving backs. Look, Jerome Ford was a high school wide receiver before he became a running back. We know we saw him as a receiver last year. Naheem Hines, when he comes back to October, that's the thought process there. Dante Foreman even can give you a little bit as a receiver as well, who most likely is going to come back after these roster cuts. So that is kind of what you're looking at here for this team. Deshaun, it's not going to be, doesn't have to be bombs away, but it's, it's basically hopefully, death by 1,000 paper cuts is kind of what you're looking for.
Stay up to date on the Cleveland Browns all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Browns on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Jim Harbaugh will lead the Chargers back to the playoffs this year. Can Jim Harbaugh get the Chargers to the postseason in his first year? Locked On NFL host Chris Carter and James Rapien believe so.
I am selling that Jim Harbaugh will just run the football. I think he will play to the strength of his team. And you look at the way the team's assembled right now, I think the big problem with Justin Herbert is he doesn't have an established superstar wide receiver. They've got young guys they're hoping can develop in Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnson has just been, drop city so far. They went and got DJ Chark. They got Will Dissly at tight end, Hayden Hurst. But no one's really separating there as far as expectations go. And so then you turn to your offensive line and you see two of the biggest investments in the last few years in Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt at tackle right there. So I look at that and I think maybe he's thinking not lean into the run a whole lot, but balance this offense a bit more so that Justin Herbert doesn't have to just chuck the ball around all day, every day. So I'm not saying that he's going to over buy into the run, but I do buy into that this team is going to be better this year with a good. I've said for years I didn't think Brandon Staley was that good of a coach. I thought he was holding this roster back. I think this roster still has a lot of talent on it, whether it's Derwin James, whether it's Joey Bosa, whether it's Khalil Mack or Asante Samuel Jr. and top of Justin Herbert and those guys. They need to put things together? Absolutely. But I think the Chargers can be a real threat. So I'll buy them being a real threat this year. Jim Harbaugh only goes where he's going to find success. And he when he smells it's going to be a problem, he dips out. We saw that with San Francisco, and we saw that with Stanford. We see that with Michigan now, and he gets out after the national championship. So I look at that, and I think he knows what he's doing. The Chargers are going to be a competitive team this year. What say you?
I agree. I actually think the Chargers could be really darn good.
I want to be a contrarian. I go into these normally trying to be a contrarian. But the last time Jim Harbaugh was an NFL coach, he was one of the best coaches in the NFL, turned a team around, a franchise, through multiple quarterbacks, and never had a true superstar quarterback. No one as good as Justin Herbert. Then he went to college and won a national title. A Michigan team that could not beat Ohio State the last few years has owned Ohio State. And don't forget what he did at Stanford, head-to-head with Pete Carroll. He took it to the USC Trojans. This is just what he does. This team is under-talented, but they've got Jim Harbaugh and they've got Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. How many teams around the league would you say are 7, 8 win teams when they have an elite coach and elite quarterback? Just that's all you needed to know with those two things. Are there any bad teams right now today that have a really good coach and a really good quarterback? The answer is no. This is going to work, and it is going to work right now. And finally, the Red Sox made history on Monday.
On Monday night in the second game of the doubleheader, Emma Tiedemann and Riley Pay became the first pair of women to call multiple innings of a Red Sox game. They are the broadcasters for the Portland Sea Dogs right now, and people were gathered in different places around the country to have watch parties to watch these two on the NESN broadcast for the Red Sox game. But it also just provided a great sense of people realizing that women can do what men do in a sports broadcasting space. And it's inspiring to women like me trying to continue to make it in the sports broadcasting field to see them go and be able to do that and have that chance. And it allows me to tell myself that maybe I can have that same opportunity one day.
If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, what can we expect from the first real week of college football? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.